Hello. Hi there. I don't know about you guys. I'm really cold. It's really cold where I live. Not a fan of it. Frigid temps are not my thing. But I'm not a meteorologist. I'm not here to talk about the weather. I want to talk about 1997's Scream 2. And as a true blue certified cinema fiend, I mean, you like movies. That's why you're here. Can you count, maybe on one hand, the number of times that you have truly been so frothing at the mouth for a sequel to a film immediately after that first film concludes? Like, we saw Scream in 1996 and we knew we were getting more of that. They panned out from Stu Macher's house and you immediately wanted to know what was going to come next. And that brilliance of Wes Craven with the hunting knife and the phone with the landline and the slack-jawed ghost face mask, all of that, we just needed more. And it took a year to follow up, but the sequel to Scream was one of the hottest tickets in town. I mean, it was everywhere. And I'm not ashamed to say that when I saw that Rolling Stone cover on the newsstand, I rubbernecked a few times. And it was so scintillating with so many beautiful ladies in this follow-up film that I almost felt guilty carrying that to the checkout line. Like I had a Playboy or something. If you haven't seen that cover, go look at that cover. But we're not here to talk about the scantily clad women of Scream 2. We're here to talk about the movie in itself. And we wind up at Windsor College. What exactly does Ghostface major in this movie? Can you think of a more awesome beginning to the movie? I mean, cold opens are great in any horror film. And in this cold open, we get the introduction of Stab, which is a movie within this movie. And it's based off of a book by Gail Weathers detailing the harrowing events she walked away from in Woodsboro just 2 years prior. Now, it's at this premiere, or this sneak peek more accurately, that we meet Phil, who's played by Omar Epps, a guy, an actor that I absolutely enjoyed watching. He was fantastic in Juice. And then, of course, he is out on a date with Maureen, played by Jada Pinkett. Now, for those of you who don't know who Jada Pinkett is, just think of Jada Pinkett as the woman that was able to make Will Smith feel bad about her cheating on him with a dude named after the lamest month in the year. That's Jada Pinkett. And in this movie, they're a cute couple. You know, they're showing up to the Rialto Theater. Rock and Ricky Rialto. I always think of Rock and Ricky from Gremlins, another Gremlins reference. But they're there for a free sneak peek of Stab. And Maureen's got a lot of opinions on watching a horror movie. She's not there for it. She doesn't want to be there. She'd rather watch Sandra Bullock. And in some cases, with some of the horror films I've seen, sometimes I get it. But she winds up settling in and wrapping herself up in this movie. And speaking of the movie within the movie, Stab, I gotta tell you. Now, she was on the cover of the Rolling Stone. Heather Graham was, but seeing her here playing Casey Becker in this film, I just really love that. I love her. Bravo choice there. Now, one of the cool things they did here is they're handing out Ghostface costumes to everyone in attendance, which means the theater is going to be full of these guys. Gives us endless possibilities when the mayhem does begin, because you never know which one's the bad one. Maybe they're all bad ones. With this movie, you can never quite tell, but Phil has to end up going to the bathroom, and he waits for a moment before two ghost faces turn to look at him at the urinals. He decides he's going to pick a stall. Now, I don't know what I would do if I heard a little weird giggling coming from the stall next to me. I certainly don't think I would try to get a better listen or a better hearing of what that is. I don't know if I'd want to know. I'm quite sure I wouldn't want to know, but he wants to know. And what he gets for his efforts is this giggly ghost face winds up being quite a powerhouse, because whoever this is drives a hunting knife through the stall partition and manages to plant it in Phil's temple. I mean, it's an awesome opening kill. R.I.P. Omar Epps, though, man. I kind of had a feeling he wasn't going to be around long, but I was hoping. And Maureen's still sitting in the theater as this whole thing is going on. She's trying to will Casey on screen through this killer's chase before our murderous Ghostface sits down next to her wearing the brown leather jacket that her boyfriend just had out. Now she curls into what she believes is her boyfriend's shoulder during these scary scenes and just as Casey is being killed on screen, she realizes there's blood all over this coat. And she looks down at her hands that are now caked in it before Ghostface looks over, sees her, and the jig is up. He stabs her in the stomach with her hunting knife, and she winds up walking out into the aisleway. And because everybody's in a frenzy, everybody's wearing the Ghostface costume, everybody's got these fake knives that they're stabbing through the air, they don't think anything of this other Ghostface stabbing at this stumbling woman. I mean, he stabs her in front of everybody 4 or 5 times. She stumbles up the stairs in front of the screen, winds up whining and, doing her thing before she collapses on the floor. End cold open, enter Scream 2 title card, off and running, awesome start to the film. And I would say RIP Jada Pinkett, but I probably wouldn't mean it. So we land in a dorm room at Windsor College, and we wind up running back into the beautiful Sidney Prescott, sporting a closely cropped new do and absolutely zero tolerance for shenanigans. I mean, she's getting a crank phone call like she's been getting apparently for a while because the opening of the movie's coming up and everybody wants to be Ghostface. Shuts it down immediately though. Sidney sees right through it, reads the guy's phone number and his name back to him off the caller ID because yes, that was new technology back in the day, and off he goes. Then we meet Haley. She bounces right into the scene to plead with Sidney to pledge this sorority with her. And, it's great back and forth. You can tell they kind of like each other. And it's nice that Sidney's got a new best friend. Probably doesn't bode well for the new best friend. But that's when they find out from another girl in their dorm about the killings at the Rialto Theater just the night prior. And then she's watching the television, seeing what the news story has to say about it, and it brings up Cotton Weary. And Cotton Weary is played by Liev Schreiber. He was the guy that they originally had fingered for the murder of Maureen Prescott, Sidney's mother in the first film. Now, naturally, Stu Macher and Billy Loomis set him up. They're actually the bad guys that did the bad deeds. Cotton is now free. Sidney decides at this point it's time to find Randy. I've got to talk to him about what just happened because luckily for us, he's a student with Sidney at the same school. Now, to me, this class sounds like a very good time. And once we land there, we have some horror heavyweights debating the virtues of the silver screen. I mean, Sarah Michelle Gellar is there, Buffy the Vampire Slayer, I Know What You Did Last Summer fame, Joshua Jackson from Urban Legends, and I'm pretty sure he was in Dawson's Creek, Timothy Oliphant, Raylan Givens, Justified, he was in The Crazies, he's just tremendous from top to bottom. They're all bickering with each other as to whether or not these murders are a way for this killer to create their very own sequel to what happened in Woodsboro. And everybody starts just raging about how bad sequels are. Then they start naming sequels that were actually better than the first movies because there are a few of them out there. And then we wind up with Randy and his nifty new goatee. Now, Randy has a lot to talk about. Obviously, he was a survivor of what happened in Woodsboro, and then Sidney pops in the doorway. Randy runs off, argues with her in a funny voice about you don't really have anything to worry about just yet. Lots of crazy things happen in the multiplex. You have no idea that this is something that we have to start stressing out over. And then we get a swift gust of douche chills. Just absolutely stop you in your tracks. Jerry O'Connell, who I enjoyed in a lot of movies prior to this, he shows up as Sidney's new boyfriend, Derek. And I don't like new guys in my movies, and I wasn't a fan of this character, and I'm not a fan of Sidney Prescott dating him. I don't know why. Maybe it was jealousy. Maybe it's because he was Cush and he broke Tom Cruise's heart and Jerry Maguire. I don't have a good reason for it. I just know I didn't like the guy, and I don't like him here. And even during this rewatch, probably the 50th time I've watched this movie in the last 2 years, not a fan. Not a fan. Not a fan. So a litany of reunions and introductions follow after this. Naturally, where there's a murder, you're going to have Gail Weathers popping up. And she looks tremendous in this film. I love Courtney Cox, and she really stands out. I mean, obviously she's a star of this franchise, but in Scream 2, she looked great. Her character was on point. Her story arc was fantastic. I'm going to brag a lot about her over the course of this one, but she's got a new fleet of foot cameraman named Joel, who's played by the drastically underutilized Dwayne Martin of Above the Rim fame, Boys to Men, music video. I mean, come on. Dwayne Martin was the shit. Laurie Metcalf pops up, and if you don't know who that is sister-in-law Jackie from Roseanne. She pops up. She's kind of a local news lady. She's got a real obsession with Gail Weathers. I mean, she is all over this woman. We also meet Rebecca Gayheart, who would do her own hacking and slashing in Urban Legends later on. Portia de Rossi is in here. I'm pretty sure she was stuck dealing with Ellen DeGeneres for an extremely long period of time, so that poor woman's got plenty of battle scars. These two, Portia and Rebecca Gayheart, they play these, hoity-toity sort of sorority chicks that want both Haley and Sydney to pledge their sorority. No matter what is happening around them, homicide be damned, they need new pledges in a worse kind of way. And what better than Sydney Prescott? I mean, Sydney's fantastic. But then we wind up bumping back into Dewey. And it's great to see Dewey back. I mean, even if this reintroduction to him is just goofy as hell. I mean, all this is going down. There's crowds of people. And Sydney sees him from afar, and he's just looking away from all the people. He's just sort of meandering by a tree. It's just weird. It's like he got hit on the head and he doesn't know where he's at. And, to be fair, he's awfully gimped up from some nerve damage, so his arm's cocked up by his side and he's got a limp. You feel bad for Dewey, but it's still really great. It's still really great to have him back because he plays the big brother to Sydney in this movie that I think she really, really needs. It's that piece of the hometown. Obviously, she still has Randy, but Dewey is the guy that's there. He's the protector, and she just feels more at ease when I see her in these scenes when Dewey's around. And then he's got his reunion with Gail, which is kind of icy because of some comments that she made, some not so flattering things that she wrote in her book regarding him. But the moment that they are back together on screen, this girl has stars in her eyes. I mean, maybe it's the real life romance that those two had going on, but the chemistry between David Arquette and Courtney Cox has always popped off the screen to me, and never more so than in this movie. It's one of the strengths, and again, we'll talk about that a lot because it was one of my favorite parts of Scream 2. So as soon as I saw Sarah Michelle Gellar's character of Cece in this movie, I kind of knew, or at least I felt, that she was going to have something more to do than just a one-off scene inside of a classroom. And we got that. She's a sorority girl herself, and Cece gets a call from Ghostface as she's waiting in an empty sorority house for her sisters to call if they need a ride home. If they're too drunk to get themselves home, Cece's there for it. And after a little bit of a back and forth on the phone, she thinks it's her boyfriend Ted. It's not Ted. And ultimately, Ghostface winds up popping out, doing his Ghostface thing. She winds up, getting away, giving him a little bit of a run for his money. Ultimately, though, she winds up out on the balcony. He winds up stabbing her to death. And even though it kind of sucks that her character went away, because I do like Sarah Michelle Gellar, I'm glad that they gave her something to do here. And it was kind of neat having her as a part of the Scream family. Now, this leads us into our very first Sydney Ghostface showdown in this film, because the sorority party that Sydney finds herself at clears out once they hear the sirens over at the other sorority house where Cece just got murdered. Now, she's going to leave too. She's got Derek waiting outside for her, and then she hears the phone ring. And why on earth would you decide to answer that phone, Sydney? I mean, you're not part of the sorority. You don't live there. Obviously, something's going on. 2 people were just murdered in a movie theater. Maybe let that one go to voicemail. She answers it, though. And for some reason, the voice on the other end, she's convinced that this is the real Ghostface. And then her being attacked shortly thereafter really drives that point home, too. Now, she survives because we're only halfway through the movie, but they lean very heavy into this idea that new boyfriend Derek is as untrustworthy and murder-crazed as old boyfriend Billy. And it kind of makes you think a little bit. They wouldn't do that twice in a row, though, right? I mean, they wouldn't repeat that. It's not like they would do the exact same thing they did in the first movie. Would they? One of Sydney's extracurriculars involves drama class and her role in the play Troy. Now, I thought these were really kind of some areas that we probably could have done without. She does, though, when we see her rehearsing, bears a striking resemblance to possessed Sigourney Weaver from Ghostbusters way back when. And the cool, ghost face appearance / hallucination when she's in the midst of her play and she's got all these masked figures circling her. I don't know why she would sign up for that shit after what she's been through. But that was kind of cool. I mean, upon every rewatch, I feel a little bit differently about it, I feel like. But, you know, I could take it or I could leave it. Our other three OGs, Randy, Dewey, and Gale, they all wind up meeting kind of in the middle of the courtyard at the college to strategize on how to smoke this killer out. As they're doing that, they get a call from Ghostface. And so they set out to find out who by them, because it's made clear to them by this Ghostface that he can see them right there. So Gale and Dewey set out to try to find where this killer is. They're harassing everybody that's got a cell phone up to their ear, right? And in doing so, Randy's got a tense back and forth with the killer on Gale's cell phone. Very funny stuff. He winds up going off on this guy, making fun of Billy Loomis, making fun of Stu Macher, all before these motherfuckers do the unthinkable. Scoop Randy up into a van and kill him. They butchered Randy. Now I'm sitting there, I'm watching the scene, and I'm like, okay, well, there's no way he's going to die. He's going to get hurt real bad. And he's going to be in the hospital for the rest of the movie. Or he's going to fight back, and he's going to climb out of this van, and Ghostface is narrowly going to escape. They're going to turn back to the van. It's going to be empty. Nobody's going to be there. That's not what happened at all. They fucking killed Randy. Could have walked out. Could have walked out of the theater on that one. I won't lie to you. I was not happy about that at all. Stellar job, though, of bouncing around your suspicions of who the killer may be. And in a lot of ways, I think they did that better here than they did in part one. I mean, is it Cotton Weary, who's, you know, he's made to look erratic and attention-starved based on what he went through? He spent a year in prison because Sidney fingered him as the guy who hurt her mother. I mean, come on. Derek is framed in that light a little bit here. You know, the overzealous boyfriend, all too eager to be around at all times. I mean, even Joel the cameraman, Dwayne Martin, poor Dwayne Martin, disappears right before the OG trio takes that phone call that leads to Randy's unfortunate final cut. I mean, they do a really good job of keeping you thinking. Gale and Dewey, I mean, fucking adorable in this movie. This is something I've mentioned before. I've mentioned it now, and I'll mention it again later. But here we are in this bloody slasher movie, right? They've just taken one of our favorites from us, and you just find yourself smiling at the two of them as they interact, as they, you know, there's a great scene where they're in this film hall. I mean, what college has a whole friggin' hall dedicated to movies? God bless you, there should be more of that. But they're in there and they're trying to pour through Gale's footage to see if they can find the killer at every single one of these scenes, maybe admiring their handiwork. And then they decide they're going to reconcile, and they're getting frisky, and Randy's rounding first base, and then more footage starts playing on a separate TV. Only this footage is taken from the killer's POV, so obviously it's not theirs. They look up in the booth, and it's Ghostface. Cock blocks the hell out of Dewey. It's very, very uncalled for, but in this scene, they make you think that they've taken Dewey away from us too, which is a real prick thing to do, in my opinion. I wasn't happy about that either. But there's also great tensions in that scene that you wind up with Sidney and Haley. They're in the back of this car with their protectors in the front. They're getting Sidney out of town. Of course, Ghostface pops up, ruins the whole thing, and Ghostface winds up crashing the car, knocks himself out, and the only way that they can get out is by crawling over him. Loved those few moments because they had you clutching the armrest of your seat. Like, it was that tense. It was really well done. I've seen the movie a million times. I just rewatched it again. I still feel the same way about that scene. I thought they did a really solid job there. Alright, so there's a lot of deaths in Scream 2, but what did this much anticipated follow-up truly kill in this movie? I really love the setting of Windsor College for the film. It felt like a natural progression for our cast. Sidney and Randy wound up going there together. I dug that. And, you know, college campus with sorority houses and frat houses and all the different halls. It gave us so many places that the killers could sort of stalk. You know, a lot of different options for us. Set pieces and whatnot. And it also gave us a lot of choices for who the killer could be this time around, because Sidney is a well-known figure on campus. It could literally be any of these hormone, just crazed nut job teenagers turning into adults, Anybody could have been wearing that mask. And I've been intrigued every single time that they take this killer and these protagonists outside of Woodsboro. I've loved that. I love it when they do it in the next movie, and I really enjoyed it here on this college campus. And, speaking of these college students, these horny bastards, the casting was strong in this movie, just like it was in the first film. Adding Timothy Oliphant to this was brilliant, in my opinion, because for the longest time in this movie, he's just this ancillary character. And then when things start to really get into it towards the end, obviously for a lot of reasons, he ramps everything up. Now, and we know a lot of these additions are just there to be Ghostface fodder, but still a really good time. I mean, the OGs, Gail and Dewey, awesome. I've already talked about that a lot. Sydney continues to own her skills as a top-tier final girl. Randy is fun for as long as we have him. Even Liev Schreiber, who I wasn't super familiar with. I think I saw him in like Phantoms or something, and that was nothing to write home about. But as Cotton Weary, he adds something to this that I really didn't see coming. And by the end of the movie, you like Cotton a little bit. And it's just a fun group all the way around. The cold open they nailed. It was so smart to start with a theater full of ghost faces and with a couple as recognizable as Omar Epps and Jada Pinkett were. It was so different from the original's cold open and so distinctive and memorable. I mean, Jada's character being continually attacked while the movie was playing and the crowd was roaring was something you really sort of had to see to believe. And in that atmosphere, you could believe something like that could happen. What killed Scream 2? Because there weren't a lot of flaws with the first movie. If you'll remember, in the first movie, I had an issue with how easily Ghostface got beat up. And that issue is still prevalent here. We're not going to rehash that, but we are reminded on the Windsor campus that sequels sometimes suck. So naturally, there should be more wrong with this movie than we found wrong with the original. But this was fun. I mean, and if we're nitpicking, if we're just finding things to pull on, it felt like all of 2 hours. There were some scenes that dragged just a little bit, maybe felt a little forced. I didn't really need to see Derek sing to Sydney in the middle of lunch. Didn't care about that part, especially because in the very next scene, I think Sydney is reiterating to him that she needs some space. I get that they needed to invest in him as a character, but I could have done without that. A lot of the drama scene stuff I wasn't really a huge fan of. I mean, I know it gave us a cool Ghostface visual, but it played into the climax, but those were kind of throwaways for me. I think if they trimmed it here and there, it could have felt a lot more smooth. But again, minor gripe. Still a solid overall film. Don't know why the fuck you killed Randy off. Biggest sin of this movie by far. I mean, it's just a jarring thing to have happen. And I guess it does drive home the point that anything can happen. But you want to talk about a misstep. Sydney wasn't even there. Sydney didn't find him. Sydney didn't really have a reaction to it. I mean, you see her at a table. She's sort of crying. She's saying it should have been her. But for a franchise that has a 7th entry on the way, killing a cornerstone piece so early, unceremoniously, if we're being honest, it was just one of the biggest holy shit moments and mistakes that I can remember a TV show making, a movie making. I just don't get it. I don't understand why they did that, and that really hurts this movie in my opinion. In the reveal, it was kind of a meh. I really didn't need them to go back to the 2-killer formula, and I know they do it over and over again, and, they mix it up here and there. There's 1, there's 3, and maybe it would have been okay if other franchises didn't steal that format, maybe. But what are the odds of one psychopath finding another psychopath out there and connecting in a way that they can trust one another with serial murders? I don't know if there's a social network. Don't know how it happens. The whole thing loses me. All that said, Scream 2 was awesome. I mean, this movie had a hell of a hype train behind it, and it delivered, This was back in the day when you had to stand in line for movie tickets. You couldn't buy them online. The internet was a thing, but it wasn't really that kind of a thing. And, the lines for this movie were long. I mean, this reaction, this reception, people wanted to see this film. It ages ever so gracefully for me. It's an 8.5 out of 10. I thought it was fantastic. It's rare in any movie genre, forget horror, just any genre in general, that we get a follow-up to a classic that holds up this well. Courtney Cox is better as Gale Weathers in this movie. Dewey makes being a gimp look cool. I mean, Neve Campbell, she makes you believe she's in distress, but, you know, not only as a young woman with killers targeting her again, but once she realizes that this is all happening to the people that she loves because she loves them, you know, I mean, if Haley didn't know her, if Derek had never met her, they'd probably live to grow old and be moms and dads and have long lives past Windsor College. I mean, you see Neve Campbell, I mean, it's just written all over. I thought she nailed it in this one. Great movie. Great Final Girl. I mean, Final Girl Hall of Fame for Neve Campbell as Sidney Prescott, in my opinion. Can't say enough good things about Scream 2. I really enjoyed it. If you enjoyed it, let's talk about it a little bit. Drop a comment. Subscribe to the channel. You know, the ghost face behind me, the signed bloody ghost face. You know, once we hit 500 subscribers, I'm going to randomize this. Signed by Matthew Lillard, one of the best, not just ghost faces, one of the best big time horror movie killers, in my opinion. Great as a normal, great as his Clark Kent character, Stu Macher. Then once you know he's a bad guy, once he puts on that Superman cape, he's tremendous. I thought he killed it. It's got a Beckett COA, so you know the autograph is legit. Once we get to 500 subscribers, I'm going to randomize all the subscribers I can see. I'm going to send it out to the top line. I'm going to reach out for information, mail it out. I mean, thanks for hanging out. Stick around. Be part of the crew. See you guys on the other side.